Everyone. So this video will be about spheres and it'll be more for upper grade classes. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some planets and make them look a little bit more 3D and realistic. Okay, so at home, if you have things that are like circular in shape that you want to try and trace for this, you can, or you can just freehand your circles. I would start out with like a pencil, right? And then we're going to color them in. You can use markers, crayons, oil pastels, what have you. I'll probably use my oil pastels just because I like them and I haven't really used them very much this year. And then afterwards, we'll do some shading and you can keep it at that. You can glue it on a black piece of paper, whatever works best. Okay, so if you have stuff that you want to trace, it's hard to trace an actual sphere, so if you want to trace something, I would do more of like a cylinder shape. Alright, so I'm going to take this down, and if I try and trace it up here, my easel will knock over. As you guys know, it likes to fall down. You'd think by now I just would have gotten smart and like taped it down, but no. That would be too easy, Miss Jenny. I like to do different sizes, right? The bigger circle would be a planet that's close. Small circles would be planets that are further away. You don't need a ton of planets, maybe like between 3 and 5 max. Otherwise, it'll be a lot of work. So I'm going to trace some circles on here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I did a few circles. I decided to do 4. You don't have to trace them, you can just freehand them. Sometimes they can be easier to trace. And I used a Sharpie so you guys could actually see what I was doing. But I would say to start out with like a pencil with an eraser. Okay, so after you have your circles, then comes the fun part of going in and decorating them and coloring them. Right? Maybe I want one to be more like blues. So I'm just going to randomly go in and just kind of add in some of those colors. Maybe I'll do like a curve right in here. Make it all swirly and stuff. Maybe it's a gas giant. I'll do some more blues. Right? Or you might have planets that have like reds or browns. Okay, so I have some swirls in there. Maybe in between I can go in and add in like a neutral color. Like you could do browns, you could do, let's see, maybe I'll do some grays. Right in here. Okay. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to decorate and color in my planets. I use all kinds of colors. If you need inspiration, you can always look up some pictures on your computer. I like to color them in all the way. Okay, so I'm going to pause this. I'm going to keep coloring, and we'll be right back. Okay, so welcome back. I went in and I colored in all kinds of colors into my planets. I did some with like greens and browns and blues and whites to make them look more terrestrial, which means they would be more like Earth. I did some that were more like gas ones where they have like the swirls. Some that looked a little bit more like a moon or like Mars, those kinds of things. And I added more because I went in and I colored them, and then I realized that I should show you some that had like colored pencils or crayons or other things at home you might be using instead of oil pastels, so that we can talk about shading in each one. So before I finish coloring this one right here, I just wanted to show you, let's see if I can find like a gray. I think I'm going to do a gray in this one. But I just wanted to show you that another way that you can add to the like round 3D shape of your planets is by trying to round the things that are in the planet. Right, so I didn't really do that on these ones, but you can see that all of my like patterns in here have a little bit of a curve to them. You see that? How they're curved instead of just straight across. Same with this one. I added in more curves. I did some curves in this one. And this guy over here. I did curves in this one, but I did them going up instead of downwards. Right, so like if I turn it around this way, it might be a little bit more noticeable. Okay, but adding in those curves helps kind of add to the shape. So when I'm going in and adding in my colors, swirls of stuff or stripes or whatever have you, I like to make them a little bit curved. So I'm going to finish coloring this one in with crayons. I did this one and this one with crayons, this one with colored pencils, and I did the rest with my oil pastels. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to talk about shading. Alright, so you have different options of how you can shade these. So say for instance, with my ones that are done in crayon, okay, let me turn this like this way so that that shadow's not on my planet. So with the ones that are done in crayons, what I do is I pick one side of my planet and I go in with a black and I color some black right on top. So like with this one, and I like to press down harder towards the outside. I put on more pressure. I press harder in order to make it darker. And almost like the letter C, I'm going to go back and forth in that curve like the letter C. And as I go in further and further, I'm going to press down lighter and lighter. And that's going to add in more of a shadow. Okay. Or, let's see, if I was using colored pencils, it would be the same kind of thing with the colored pencil, just the black right on top. Except, for some reason, I don't seem to have a black colored pencil. Shoot. Wait. I found it. Okay. So like here's my one in colored pencil right here. I really like that right there. I think I'm going to pick this side. So I'm just going to go in. Outside the line. That's okay. And right on this curve, right down here, I'm going to color some black right on top. I'm going to press down a little bit harder to make it darker. And as I work my way in, I'm going to press down softer and softer. And soft, so that it gets lighter and lighter. Alright, so that will help to add in to that shadow. Okay. And I'm going to do a little bit more red on the outside here. Make it a little bit more rounded looking. Right. Okay, so you can see already that these ones, where I have my shadows, already look more 3D and realistic than these other ones, right? Because we have the shadow, and then where we didn't have that shadow, it would be more of like a highlight. So, if you used markers are a little bit trickier to do shadows with, because markers, it doesn't matter if you press down softer or harder. It still delves out about the equal amount of color, because it's more that like liquid that comes out of your marker. Alright, so grab a marker. And I'll show you on this one with my marker, even though it's crayon. Right? If you did marker to color it in and you're going to do marker for shading, it would be the same thing. Figure out which way to hold this. Okay. I'm going to hold it this way. Except for I'm going to angle it because that light is like making it shiny. Okay, so I already did curves going downwards, if you can kind of see that, like this. So what I'm going to do is, on one side, instead of, I mean, you can go in and you can add in like a little bit more of a shadow going along the side with your marker. But for the most part, I just want to use lines to shade. That marker is running out. Let me see if I can get a better one. Right, so what I would do instead is I would have a whole bunch of lines that came out that were really close together. To add in my shading. That one's not working much better. Please bear with me as I struggle through these technical difficulties. Here we go. Okay. So I'll bring this closer so you can see. So instead of like coloring, I'm just doing a whole bunch of lines. And right in here, I'm doing them a little bit longer. And as I get towards the edges of like my C, I do them shorter and shorter. So that one with marker can be a little bit more difficult as far as shading goes. Okay, but it is possible. To still shade with like markers or pens. Alright, so I'm going to hold that up nice and close so you can see. So I just did a whole bunch of lines coming across. Right? Or for shading, if you're doing something like oil pastels, let's do it with this guy right here. What I would do is I would go in with my black oil pastel right along one side. And you can definitely, do the pressing down harder and then softer thing. Or you could do like a letter C or almost like a little crescent and then rub it in right along that C with your fingers to make it blend. Alright, so let's see, I'm going to do that again over here. I'm going to do it on this side. So I'm going to go in and do like a little bit right along here, just on one side. And then on the inside of that, where it meets the color of the moon, I'm just going to gently smudge it and rub it. Notice that I'm not like really rubbing it. I'm just like almost like gently pulling it out and rubbing right along that line or pulling the line out into my color in order to blend it and make it look like there is a shadow. Okay. All right. So some options, different ways that you can do shading on spheres to make them look more realistic. Right, and you can already see with these ones that I did how much more it seems like they kind of start to pop off the page than these other ones. So I'm going to do the same thing on this guy. Right, and when you're working with like a planet and we're adding in a shadow, the shadow would be the side of the planet that is facing away from the sun. So on that planet, I went in, I did some black. I'm going to go in and just kind of gently rub it in. In that C shape. Make it look more rounded. Okay, so let's see, I have these three and this one left still. So let's go ahead. Let's do it with this guy. And I'm going to do it with this one over here. That one's a little oblong looking, so I'm just going to pull my black out instead of in on top. Just have to look at it because I can't really do circles sideways. Alright, so So rather than doing lots on top of the colors, I pulled it out this way to make it just a little bit more rounded rather than like an egg shape. Right, so you can also kind of change the shape of your circle that way by adding in extra going outwards. Okay, a couple more here. I try to make this one look a little bit more like a moon. And usually too, when you're doing this, I like to try and do more of them so that like the shadow is on the same side, so that the sun would be coming from the same side, because usually if you have planets like this next to each other, like the sun would be over here, or something like that. But I decided that for fun, I'm going to cut these out and put them on a black piece of paper. So when I arrange them on my black piece of paper, I'm going to make sure to put them so that the shadow is coming from the right direction. And I've also decided that I really like that like faded, oil pastel look for my shadows. By like rubbing it in. So I'm going to put that on my other ones because I like how that looks. Right. I don't think I'll keep these crayon ones. I think that might be too many planets on one page. So let's see. I'm going to do this guy. And I think I'm going to do it over on this side. Right, if you have one side that's already kind of darker anyway, you can always just add to that with what you already have going. And there's a bit more of that dark blue right around here. So I'm going to add in a little bit of that black. And with my finger, I'm just going to gently rub. Right, I make it real thin on the sides, a little bit thicker right on the bottom. Or like in the middle of where that C is. You don't want to rub too crazy hard, or you don't want to rub like this as much. If you do go like this, you can like pull in and let go to help blend. But honestly, I just like to go around the edge where the black and the colors for my planet meet, because that usually is enough just to start smudging that black into there. Right, so I'm going to add in just a little bit more black. This is a bigger planet, so I'm going to bring it out just a little bit further. Okay. A couple little spots in here where okay. So once you have your planets in and you've done that like black sea, then you can leave it, or if you want to, you can go in and glue them on a background paper. And I think black would be best because, you know, space, it's dark, usually more of like a black. You could do like a dark blue or something. If you have that paper at home. If you don't have the paper, totally fine. You can leave it like this too. Alright, still look cool either way. But I'm going to go ahead and pause this. I'm going to put them on my black paper, and I'll show you extra fun options you can add if you want to. Take it, leave it, and I'll see you in just a minute. Okay, so I glued my planets onto my paper. Notice how I tried to have the shadow on the same side on all of my planets when I glued them on. I ended up ditching this planet because I felt like it was too much, right? Space is pretty big. If you were working with oil pastels and you want to, like, if you're like super into this project and you're like, this is cool, you could always go in and you could add in extra stuff after you have this in. Like if you wanted to add stars with like little dots in the sky, just by like pressing down with your oil pastel. I'm just using white, right? You can add in some other stuff like that. You could also, like, around your planet, you could go in and do like that circle shape and give it a belt for fun. You could let's see. Yeah, you could do like shooting stars. You could do little glowy stars, making them like little plus signs or X's to make them look like they're shining really far away. Add in a little bit extra into that outer space. You could do like a little alien ship or what have you. Right? Now, if you do decide to do stars, something that we want to do as humans, we love patterns, okay? If there's a pattern, it helps our brain to make more sense out of it. But what can happen is if you do your stars too evenly spaced apart, like I started doing right here, and all the same size, it's going to start looking more like polka dots and less like stars. So it's good to try and like switch it up. So maybe some are closer together, some are further apart, right? Those kinds of things. You could add in like satellites or whatever you want to do. Right? You could do like a galaxy way off in the distance. There's like those spirally ones. There's let's see. You could do it as like a whole bunch of lines coming out to make your galaxy. You could do a black hole, which would be like almost like that circle, and like things are just like getting sucked into it. All the light nearby. It's a little bit harder to draw. I think I'm gonna smudge that in a little bit. You have that, what's called the event horizon, which is like the last time you see the light before it bends and gets sucked into that hole. You can make it even darker too by going in and like adding in black, especially if you got some white on the inside of it. You could do some other colors. And just have fun with it. If you want to do extra in your spacing, you most certainly can, but you don't have to. Right, or you can do like a little shooting star comet that's really far away. Like a little streak. You could even do like little lines coming out from it, so it looks like it's all glowing and stuff. You could even just like dot, 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 all randomly. You could add in certain constellations. I'm going to do a few more things over here. And some of those glowy guys. Right over in here. Some more of those like more random dots and whatnot. Fill in some of that space. Even though universe, it already has lots of empty space. But you know, just for fun. One great thing about doing this too is like, say you have something that you don't like as much, like I really like this galaxy I made, but I'm not super big of a fan of my strange little galaxy over here, so I'm gonna try and clean it up with some black and just cover that up like it never happened. I'm gonna add in a circle in the middle, maybe like string these around a little bit further so it looks a little bit more like galaxy. You can use other colors too, it doesn't have to be white. But have fun with it. Get creative. Send me pictures. Or have your parents take pictures. Or show your schoolmates and whatnot. And practice. Practice, practice, practice. Keep going with your spheres. Right? Once you got it, you can take it in all kinds of different directions. If you had like a ton of fun with this one and you really liked doing the like shading the planets and making something look more realistic, if you want, I know I assigned a different one to the lower grades. We did bubbles, but if you want to just like in your free time check it out and learn how to make bubbles, you could do that too. And there's all kinds of things that you could do with spheres. have lots of fun. Message me on Canvas if you guys have any questions or feedback or want to talk about it. You liked it, you didn't like it. Okay, anything related to the art we're doing, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more optional things that you can look at for extra ideas on how to do shading in spheres, but also to look at the lighting of a sphere in different textures in my light box. So take a look. Bye-bye.